Series where I am programming an NES game live on Twitch from scratch with better or worse results sometimes. Um, so, quick updates. The first update is I posted on Twitter yesterday or maybe today, I don't remember, that I'm going to be doing a recording of basically the progress of what I've done so far in the game over the past. Really, it's been like 70 streams because 4 of them have been interviews with NES developers from the homebrew community. So, just to kind of give people a quick recap of what's been accomplished, which may or may not seem like a lot, but probably you know, depending on your skill level and experience with the NES, it's something that I wasn't sure. I'm not sure what I was anticipating, how far I would have made it in this amount of time, but I'm not disappointed in the progress I've made. Although I haven't made the video yet, so maybe we'll see. Maybe I will be when I'm done. The second thing is we have some art here. I don't want to show too much, but some cool art that I got from someone that I'm working with, and I'm pretty excited about the way that that's looking. So just a real quick sneak peek. Not that that means anything because you can pause the video once it's posted on YouTube, but there's some animation stuff there that I gotta go through, and I was hoping to get to the point where we can load up some of that art in the game today. I had converted part of the sprites that were made here because of the colors used. It will use 2 palettes to represent the sprite, but the good thing is that it's really just or represent the ship object rather. But the good thing is that it's really just 3 physical sprites because it's the one for the top and then 2 sort of offset, which is going to look really cool. I'm excited to figure out how to get that to work because I had been working in just getting the ship built in sort of a 2x2 sprite layout, but I really like what was done here, and then it's definitely better than anything I've managed so far. There's some animations that he put together that look really good across the board. It's going to be sort of a game changer to have, no pun intended, a game changer to have some real art that we can use with animation that looks great. I'm pretty excited to see that come together and actually make the game feel a little more polished and like we're making some more progress with things other than just the tech. But one of the things that we found last week when I changed the status bar and I changed the scroll speed is that we are experiencing a weird graphical, I don't know that it's a bug, it's just a weird artifact of the way that we're loading the meta tiles, because the way that I initially wanted to make this work was that it loads a full meta tile at a time. And so that's what's happening, but well, actually, you can't see it because I purposely put the status bar there to hide that. If we get rid of the counter for the MMC interrupt, what you'll see is that as it loads, so initially I thought it was loading an entirely different tile there, but what it's actually doing is it's updating the attribute table and setting the entire meta tile's worth of attributes as we scroll, rather than just the row of tiles that we're loading. So what we should probably do tonight, before we do anything with the sprites, as much as I want to mess with those because it's a little more fun, we should definitely fix that so that we don't have to have the status bar hiding anything but maybe like the very most bottom 8 pixels. So let's get into how we're going to do that. So, oh, I have to fix that. I increased the size of the picture down here, but only on the one scene. So anyway, well, that doesn't matter. Nobody really needs to see me that closely. So what we did in prior streams, so there are a couple of things. So one of the things, it's kind of amazing to me that this is still working okay. We're still updating. When we have to update the meta tiles, we're still doing a store that overwrites the entire attribute buffer in the PPU memory, and it's not really impacting our gameplay right now. I suspect that will eventually change. I hope not, because it's really simple this way. We just iterate through our attribute buffer and overwrite the old content with the new content, and we're done. It's super easy. But yeah, that's we'll see as we progress. It depends on how much we're actually putting into the game as we go. So let's get to the point where we're actually updating the attribute memory here, because one of the things that we're doing is we are updating more than just the row that we are processing. We're updating the entire 4 rows of attributes, which is easy to do because it's fewer bytes, right? If we go to, if I just grab, it's 64 bytes for the entire screen. We'll go to NestDev for a second here. And you go to the attribute table. What you're getting is you have 1 byte per meta tile, essentially, because it's 32 by 32. And so the update is just updating 1 byte at a time. Now, actually, now that I'm looking at this, it might actually be harder to do just the bottom 4 by 4. Well, we can do... Okay, so to save ourselves some headache, and now I know what Banchiku was talking about on Twitter, we could do just the bottom 2 rows, and then the upper 2 rows, because that is just the lower 4 bits and then the upper 4 bits, rather than doing first 2 bits, then another 2 bits, and another 2 bits, and another... Well, I don't know that it's that much more complicated. I mean, you're still doing bitwise operations. It's just a question of how often we want to do that update. So Where is that code? So there's process scrolling, spelled incorrectly. All right, so do updates. So, but this is in the PPU where it's actually, or in the NMI, I should say, where it's actually doing the updates. So where is our downloading tiles? Store a attribute buffer X. Right, so in here, here's where we're doing our work to update the attribute buffer. Because what we're doing is we are shifting and ORing into A, and then storing A into the attribute buffer, and then incrementing, and once we're done, because the attribute buffer, I believe, let's see here, it's 32, it's 64, right? Are we doing, wait a minute, is this, sorry, I'm trying to find, oh, this is in load level. Okay, I was going to say, why are we doing 64 updates into the attribute buffer, but it's because that's when we're doing the load of the level, so I've gone too far. Where is that code? Maybe I should separate it out into a separate file, just so it's easier to track. Next metatile attribute. Okay, so yeah, so the attribute index is where we are in the row of attributes. So if we, where is that? So if you remember way back when we were doing this initially, we have this buffer that represents the screen attributes, and we have an index into where we are on the attribute buffer, and we update the bytes, and then we jump back to the next row, and then we do the next one on the next update, and then we do the next one on the next update. And then we have that weird annoying logic where when we hit the top of the screen, depending on if we were in a mode, depending on how we were updating, if we were updating a 4x4 that fit, then we switched to the alternating one that does that half row at the bottom here, and then the other half row, because remember, the attributes are uneven. We have 4x4 except for the last row, which creates that weird annoying problem, which just makes attributes so much fun. So now we got to break this. So let's see here. How are we doing this? So we are copying for each metatile, we're copying a row, and then let's see, when we are, so based on the load new row, I believe we are determining if we need to, yeah, so if the metatile flag is 0, that means we didn't hit any of these things. We didn't load a new row, and we didn't load the metatile set the metatile flag that we needed to update the attributes. So let's see here. So we're just taking our current metatile value, right, which is represented at row mem y, which is exactly what we load over here. And we are storing it into temp and decrementing it, and then we are reloading. Why are we doing that? Oh, because we need temp later on. If it's FF, that means it was 0 and it rolled over to FF, or it became -1 essentially. And that's what we would have the problem with if we were in a situation where we're using the half row the full row versus the half row. All right, so we have our thing, we're shifting it, and then so we're taking the value of the tile, we're shifting it, and then ORing the value back onto it, because that will give us our attribute value correctly. And then we're getting our attribute index, we're getting our attribute byte that we configured in this way, and then we are, let's see, why are we doing the attribute mode and the attribute mode? Store it while we get the attribute value. Oh, because the attribute mode will actually remove bytes that we shouldn't be setting, and then we do our OR onto it with our temp value. So this is, yeah, this is complicated. I forgot how complicated this is. Bleh. And this mask change is for where we have to switch back to the other attribute value for that half row again, or what I was calling the split mode, where it's not, we're not updating the whole byte, we're updating essentially 2 nibbles from 2 different bytes. All right, so let's think about how we can sort of quick and dirty make this work. So instead of there are a couple of things we can do. So what I'm thinking we want to do to maybe make this simple is when we're on a row, let's go with the simplest case first. When we're updating a full set of bytes on the row, we only want to update the bottom. So what we want to do is we want to use that mask so that we get the bottom, left, and right part of the attribute, right? So if this is our 32 by 32 divided up into the 4 sections, we just want to update this part first, and then we want to update that part next. So what I'm thinking we could do is we can mask the update and then apply it to the lower nibble, or sorry, I keep saying that, the upper nibble, and then after, let's see, so after we're counting the number of metatile rows until we get to 4. So what we would want to do is, when we get to, let's see, so 8 is the row counter, and then load mtile y, subtract 4. What we would want to do is we would want to compare that to, I think we start at 12, right? If I'm remembering correctly, we started at 12 and then we were subtracting 4. Yeah, we were subtracting 4 each time to give us a handy way to offset into the meta tile in order to not have to do the multiply every time. So what we would want to do is, if we're starting at 12, when we get to the point where the value is 4, then what we want to do is we want to update the lower nibble in this mode here, right? So this is our first update, right? This is our first update where we're doing that, and then when we get to the middle of the meta tile, we'll do our second update, and that will just be basically us copying the value in. So we take, essentially we take the value, so whatever the value is, right? We're gonna mask it. If this is, say, C code, we're gonna mask it. Come on. We're going to mask it that way. And then we're going to, well, we don't want to apply it directly. We're going to say something like, you know, temp is equal to value and this to get the upper bits. And then we're going to say we have something like this, and well, actually we don't even care about the lower bits other than to just simply say value and equals. No, we don't even care about that. Let's see. So we can just do this and then take the value and put it into something like a temp, shift it over by 4, and then value or equals value, temp, and that would give us our update. That's for the simple case where we're not going between we're not in the split mode. If we're in the split mode, then what we're doing is a little more complicated. So this is no split, and then this is split. So what we're doing is we're updating this part of the attribute here, right? And then we're updating this part here. So this top part is the bottom nibble. So XOF, and then this is the top. But the more complicated part is that we need to do this to 1 byte and then do this to the byte that is how many bytes is it back? Is it 8? It's 8. So this is minus 8 bytes, right, from the current index. So let's start with the easiest part, which is just adding the condition here that compare to 4, branch not equal to check for new meta tile row, which is this one. Check compare to 4 so that we can update the attribute buffer for the remainder of the meta tile, since we're doing the bottom half of the meta tile first, and then the top half. All right, so hopefully that'll make sense later. So we compare, we branch if not equal, so now we're, oops. So update the attribute table for the half meta tiles. So let's take a look. So we have, what did we call that? We called that not meta tile flag, attribute mode. So load a attribute mode, compare it to split, branch not equal to no split, update. So all right. So branch not equal, no split update. So this is our split update. Put a label just so it's clear here. Get this code kind of out of the way. All right, so let's do the no split update first, because I think that's going to be the easier of the two. So what we want to do is we want to load load x with attribute index. Do we care what the value of x is at this point? Load y. Transfer 8. No, we don't, because we're going to clobber it later. We'll test that in a second, but to make sure that that has no bearing on what's going on. So we're going to load x with the attribute index, and then what we're going to do is we're going to compare that to 8 at the end. And we're going to compare that to 8 at the end, and we're going to branch if not equal to no split update loop. And this is increment x. So this is going to be broken. This is going to be broken half the time if we get it working for the no split mode. What is unexpected? 985. Okay, so let's just make sure that that didn't actually have any functional impact on the game in and of itself. So far it's looking okay. It's looking the same as before. Scrolling is obviously slow, but that's on purpose. Okay, so that's all looking good. So I didn't break anything by making that change. That's good to see. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to iterate through the attribute buffer at that index and do what I said here, which is we want to take the value and grab the top part of it and apply it to the bottom part, the lower part of the byte across the board. So Let's load A, attribute index, X, not attribute index, sorry. Attribute buffer, okay, and then we're gonna end with right, and then now that we have that, we are going to LSR twice, no, 4 times. And then we are going to, no, almost. Oh, actually, you know what? We can do that. Here, transfer A to Y, because we don't care about Y right now. Load it again. And then, wait, this seems dumb. Hold on. I don't remember. You can do this to things other than A. Does it make more sense to... I'm just wondering if it makes more sense to do that to the memory location 4 times and then we just OR that into A and store it again. Like here, so we can do this and then do that and then so we get the value of it, we take the top 4 bits, we shift the value in memory. Oh, wait a minute. No, we don't even want to do that. Do we? Yeah, no, that's fine. Because then we're effectively shifting the top 4 bits into the lower 4 bits, which is what we wanted, and then we're ORing this all back together to give us our complete new byte in A, and then we're storing that into the buffer. That looks okay. I mean, could do it in registers, I guess, without, because we could load. Can you do that? We can do this and say, okay, we're going to end this, and then we're going to right? We shift that right in A, and then can you do? You can't do an OR with Y, so you have to use memory to do the OR anyway. Okay. Okay. So that's probably fine. All right. So let's see how bad this broke. Or maybe it didn't. I don't know. That's why I like to do this in small increments, because you never know. So I don't remember if we're in split mode or not for the beginning. I think, whoa, that was cool. That was not what was supposed to happen. Okay, so obviously something is wrong. Let's see what I broke. No split update. So we'll start it over. Branch if not equal to split. No split update. Oh, you know, well that doesn't help things. So jump, if we are in split mode, so right away that doesn't help things, right? Because it shouldn't be going into the no split update if there's if it's in split mode. So let's see if that at least fixed that weird glitching we were seeing. So this is a split up. Okay, cool. So it should just keep doing what it was doing before. Let's put a breakpoint on no split update. I may need to increase the speed here, or we're going to be sitting for a while with this scrolling speed. Let's do that. I should make that a constant that it compares against. Load a scroll counter. Oh, that's not it. It's was a new one. Camera counter. Load a camera counter 1E. All right, so let's just make it 1. Go back to where it was before. Wait, you know what? Let's do this the right way. Let's add a constant so that I can just change this in the constant and not have to mess with this every time. So camera counter speed equals 1E, and then 1E. I don't remember that. I think that's right. That's got the pound. Yeah, okay. This should be this. Camera counter speed. Build. Okay. So by this time we've hit the breakpoint anyway. But let's go back so that just make sure that change. Yep. Okay. So now we should be able to make this something like 8, and it should affect everything properly. Yeah, much better. Okay. So we'll let that keep scrolling. So once we get to the point where, excuse me, once we get to the point where we are going to hit the top, we're going to switch into no split mode. Oh, is my breakpoint gone? Yeah, my breakpoint is gone. Darn it. Okay, so let me go back and adjust the emulation speed back to normal. All right, and so that's our attribute index, and we're going to load A. Yeah, that's, I remember those being proper attribute values, and then we're going to load. Oh, we don't need to do this load Y. But anyway, so we're doing the and then we're shifting. So this should now, else attribute buffer X should be just A, and then, so it doesn't actually change anything for this one. We're still getting AA and storing that back. So now it's doing the same thing? That's weird. No split update. We don't need to do this load Y anymore. That was just me messing around with it. The attribute mode, let's see. So compare for branch if not equal, check for new. Otherwise, get the attribute mode and compare it to split. And if it's not equal, go to no split update. Otherwise, it goes to split update, which just goes for check for new metatile row, which is over here. So that's fine. We don't care about that right now. We're going to load X with the attribute index, and then we're going to get the attribute buffer. And then we're going to compare X to 8. And then if it's not equal, we're going back to the no split update loop. Otherwise, we're going to, well, we know it's not equal to this. So actually, we should just jump right to branch if equal to increment, otherwise just load new row. And this can do that because we know it's not FC. If we came into here, we know it's 4. So there's no point in even going into check for new metatile row. We are just going to go right to load new row. So that'll bypass some code here where it'll check if it needs to go to the next row. Okay. So let's relaunch this, and where's my PPU viewer? Okay. And like I said, we know that this is going to be broken in the split mode where we're updating based on the bottom half row being used. And now, okay, so now we're halfway through with a no split update. We're going to get into, we should be loading, well, that's weird. Scroll counter 0. Subtract 4 and tile Y. Compare it to 4. It is 4, so that's okay. Increment metatile row. All right, yeah, that should be right. So the index is 30. The value is AA. We're just going to loop through this whole thing. It's A0, so now this is going to become AA. which row is it updating? Let's see, attribute index is 30. So what is that? That's 48. 6. So 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Did I somehow reverse the logic here? Or has it always been a little bit? Well, it's definitely halfway-ish. I wish there was... Is there a way to scale this view? No. Be nice to be able to see this as a larger, like a scaled view. Can you do that here? No, that's refresh. I have to put in a feature request or something. So let's take a look. The scroll. I mean, it's definitely somewhere. Oh, you know what? Because this is attribute, it could very well be 4. It's just so small that... Okay. But this is the split mode now. Compare to split. Branch if not equal. Am I just being dumb here? That's always an entirely possible cause of a problem. Compare it to attribute mode split. Load A. Excuse me. I'm still... That cold is still kind of lingering in my throat. I don't know why it's not going away. Attribute mode, compare, branch. If not equal to this. So it shouldn't be... That's weird. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Let's go to the debugger and just walk through this. I mean, the logic itself of what it's doing is right, but it feels like it's doing it in the wrong place. But I don't know. Let's see. If the attribute index is the attribute index pointing to the next row? You know what? It might be. It might be that the attribute index is always the next one, and okay, I think that's what it is. And the reason for that was that I just wanted to, when I was done working with it, have it be in the correct state for the next update that we're doing, and this is needing it to be on the current row again because of the way that I kind of did this in a, well, because it wasn't a problem with the status bar. So let's see. If that's the case, then all we need to do is, first of all, find where that code was we were messing with. All right, so we're going to load the attribute index into X, and then I guess we can load it into A and then clear carry, add carry. No. 8. And then transfer A to X. So that should be okay now. That'll get us the row that we actually want to update, which would be row 7 instead of row 6, which that makes more sense because we're doing the sort of the topmost, or sorry, the bottom, what is it? It's both the topmost, it's the topmost here, but because we're scrolling over, it's the bottommost. Yeah, welcome to Asm Hell. No, I'm writing Asm. Yeah, it has its moments. It's more of just it being Asm and the NES at the same time. That's kind of like it can lead to interesting situations, especially when you're dealing with attributes. Okay, so the attribute index clear add. So that gives us 38 divided by 8. That's 38 hex. 38 divided by 8 is 7. Okay, great. That is what it's supposed to be. All right, so now if we step through, and we're actually on this, that's looking more like what I was expecting. Although, what I don't like is that it is staying in... Is there a bug in the initial... Or maybe... Oh, that's possible that there's a bug... Wait, whoa. What? Why did the enemies... Are we looping through the map? Okay, so it's looping through the map over and over again. Okay, interesting. So what did I break when I did this? Were X and Y actually necessary? So this Y value, store Y. Oh, I guess... Yeah, okay, Y... For the objects, let's see. Increment camera counter, scroll Y, compare, done scroll, store A, done scroll, ink scroll counter, load Y position, load enemy position, compare the objects to determine if we need to add a new object to the map, otherwise we're done. Load A0, store a meta tile flag, load scroll counter, compare it to 8. Branch if equal to increment meta tile sub row, otherwise skip row process. Increment meta tile sub row. Okay, so this is all good so far. Load A0, store a scroll counter. Load a M tile Y, set the carry and subtract 4. Store A and M tile Y. Branch not equal to check net for new meta tile. Branch if not equal to check for new. Yeah. And then we're doing this stuff. And then we are, if we're not doing that, we're going to here to compare that. And then we are branching. And we're doing that. So where's the problem? I guess it is... That's weird because... So this is really funny. So it's just reloading. it's just reloading the same part of the map every time. Oh, I have several PPU viewers open. Oops. Kind of interesting that I've managed to create this problem. So there are enemies that do nothing right now. And there's the bumper thing that you can crash into. And now we're at the point where we're at this break point. So if we... I guess it must be something in the load new row that's broken. Load metatile flag or A2. Store metatile flag. Load Y0. Store Y. Well, it shouldn't be because it's... Yeah, it shouldn't matter. Jump load new row. Because load new row is reinitializing Y. Oh, wait. But X... Was X reinitialized? Well, it's transferring A to X from this load, so that's fine. Compare this to 3, skip attributes. Let's see. Skip row process, which we don't want to do. I mean, that all seems okay. We're just loading in a row now. So when we're done, we should get to there, and we skip the attributes. We're at the next part of the screen that we're updating, decrementing the screen memory, all that stuff, and we're doing our sprite code now. So now we hit another row. It's like it reinitialized everything. Why is that? Something going on with Messen not reloading this properly? I doubt it. It's weird that it's reloading the map like that. Let's take a look at the debugger again. Let's get rid of these. Oops. breakpoints, and let's just see what happens as it runs. So now we should be getting to the point where we call the new code. Well, see, it like glitches and restarts loading the map. Am I jumping to a wrong label? Is that what's happening? Because we're just getting this one screen and then it's... Okay, yeah, I must be doing something bizarre like that. Let's see here. It's not something like we have multiple... I mean, here we can... This is all the new code we added, right? Which wasn't really that much. So technically, if it's that code that broke it, taking it out should fix it. So we'll know once we hit the top of the scroll over here, if it does that weird glitch out again. Yeah, no, now it's working fine. All right, so something in the code we added is breaking something. Check for compare branch if not equal to check for metatile row. Otherwise, load a attribute mode. No split update. No split update loop. So let's see. Coming into this, oh, wait a minute. Well, that's wrong. That must be what's happening. All right, hold on a second. So while I only want to do 8 updates, the value of attribute index is the actual offset in the memory. So comparing x against 8 is bad because now we're going to keep incrementing until we get to x being 8, which means that we've rolled over 255 back to 8 because it's not 0. So, well, we don't care, right? Y, the value of y isn't important, so we'll use that as our counter. Well, that was just silly. So that must have been corrupting something and causing that weird behavior. Let's see. Just open up the debugger. And let's do no split update. Right there. That would also kind of explain why it's just doing it the one time and then going back to the split mode. Something is just being totally messed with in the memory. Maybe it's resetting the game state or something like that. It's possible it's resetting the game state to the point where it thinks that the game has restarted, and that's why it starts loading the map from 0 again. Move out of the way of that thing. I don't have a PP viewer open. Okay, so let's see what happens here. So we're going to iterate through this. Damn it, we still need to increment X, and I didn't do that. Okay. Let's try this again. Let's increment the emulation speed. It's funny, it's capping out at about 140 frames per second. So even at such high emulation rates, it does not matter. All right, options, speed, normal. Okay. Load the attribute index, transfer A to X, Y is 0. So we're doing our attribute update, incrementing X and Y, comparing Y to 8. Okay. So let's see what we've got going on here now. So this is no longer totally broken. It does look like it's updating the attributes. Yeah, so it looks like it's doing the correct update to the attributes versus the split mode, where we should see double the attribute updates. Or is that true? Well, it looks like no, it's still doing the same amount of... Oh, okay, right. It's going to still continue to do that because I'm not... I didn't change the lower part that actually does the attribute update here. So, compared to split, branch not equal to done with attributes. So this is the split mode. Or this is not the split mode, this is the non-split mode. Load the attribute index, transfer A to X, load A temp, and the attribute mode. But the attribute mode is no longer the only determining factor. So now, what did we say? We said that for split mode, we're doing the bottom first, which is, where is my, the bottom is the top part of the byte, the most significant portion of the byte. So the attribute mode, if I remember correctly, is purposefully, yeah, so we built this to specifically be the same as the mask that we needed to apply. So if there's no split, we were applying the whole 1 byte update. That said, that's no longer correct. So let's do this. We're doing and attribute mode. So, and then, so it's really this now. It's really that, and then in split mode, we are reversing the mask, and okay, so that should take care of it. Because we were basically sort of double updating. First we were updating the entire attribute byte, and then we were updating just the bottom half of the, or the lower, least significant portion of the byte, which is the top part of the attribute, because they couldn't have made it any more confusing. So let's, I shouldn't say that, they definitely, I'm sure, could have. So let's continue on here. So we're seeing that it's updating the whole meta tile right now, which is this whole attribute chunk of 32 by 32. And what we should see after we scroll past the top of the screen is that it should just be doing just a portion. And not the whole meta tile. I can't tell if that looks better or not. Or if that looks correct or not. Because, why? Because we have the overscan of 8. Should I turn off overscan? No, it still looks like it's... Did I load the color, or load the tile, apply the attribute mode, start into Temp2, then load it again, load the attribute mode, and then apply a reverse mask, and end that with the current value. Get the current attribute values. Right, so the attribute mode before was FF. I think it's not quite as simple as what I was thinking. So if we're in no split mode. We take the tile value, we've already shifted it into the appropriate locations within the byte. So then we are ending the attribute mode, so it goes unchanged in no split mode. We're storing it. We're loading the attribute mode and flipping the bits with the exclusive OR, and then we're loading the attribute buffer, ending it against that, which in no split mode we want the whole thing to go away. But now with this change that we're making, we actually only want to load the attributes into the top portion of the byte. So we want the top portion of the byte, which means that we don't care about the bottom portion, and when we flip, okay, that still makes sense because we flip and we get 0F, so we and the current value of the attribute against now F0, against 0F, which gives us the top portion of it, and then we're going to OR the bottom portion against it, and then we're going to store it, and then we're going to look at this attribute mode, and if it's split mode, then we're going to deal with the rest of the split process, which we know is still broken in split mode. But in no split mode, that means we're getting our top. Why doesn't that work? So we're getting the topmost portion correctly configured and stored into temp2. We're ending the current bottom bits against the top bits of, that's the top and the bottom. That looks correct. And then we are ORing that all together, and then we're storing it. And then we're checking if we have to do anything with the split, and we don't, so we're done with attributes there. Which is this. Well, it looks okay. Am I just not seeing it correctly in the way that it's running? Let's take a look. Because this is, I feel like something it would, it'd be helpful if I could see this a little bit better. Oh, you can highlight tile updates. Interesting. And update and attribute updates. Let me get rid of the grid. That'll help me at least see where we're doing updates. Okay. So this is all looking pretty normal. We're doing our, let me pause this for a second. No split mode. No split mode loop. Wait, split. What did I call it? Oh, no split update. I want a breakpoint there so that we can see what it's doing. Okay. So right now it's definitely updating the meta tiles fully when we do our attribute updates. So now we should be seeing, what we should be seeing is a row update with only half the meta tile. So a 16 by Should be 16 by 32 update. So if I advance the game, oh, it is doing that. Oh, okay, so something else broke though. It did it the first time, it looked like. Can I rewind? I don't remember. I'm pretty sure you can rewind. I just don't remember if I have it configured to do so. Display controller input. Setup. Left. Right. Okay. So does this actually do anything? Oh, okay. Well, I can do it with backspace, so that's fine. Go back to this here. I'm going to go back to before we looped. And slow down the emulation and look at see what change. See that first one. Let's go back here. That first one, it did what I wanted it to do, and then it looked like it looked like it broke immediately after that. So it needs to be quite that slow. So it's gonna get to the top of the screen here. And then we're going to get, we should just get a half. We got that row, and then we're going to get the next row, and half the attributes updated is what it is supposed to do. And that's what it did there. Although the values look wrong. But that's fine. Got the row. And then it should just do this next half of a... Well, see, now it did the whole... It did that whole attribute. All right, so... Let's get to the scroll position again. All right, so oh, wait a minute. Am I looking at this the wrong way? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, no, wait, because we're doing 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm updating this bottommost row, which means that I'm updating oh, is this an edge case that I'm messing up on this, and then that's what's causing the problem here? Let's see, attribute index is 30, and 30 is decimal 48. No, that should be okay. 60. It's just 16, so that's 2. Yeah, it's not at the bottommost part. So I'm not updating the very last row. I'm... So we're at that location, and I am... Let's see, if we started in split mode, then we were doing this and this and this and this and this and this and that, and then this and that, and then we are now here. And so the first updates would be the bottom ones, which are the topmost bits, and then we should be now updating the bottommost bits here. So we are loading the attribute buffer currently. We are removing the bottommost bits, and then we are... So it was 5, 5, and so now we're gonna turn it into 0, 5. Oh, we're not. Well, we might not be, because I didn't clear the carry. I think LSR takes off the carry. ASR, is that what I want? ASR? Or is it? So logical shift right, rotate right, 7 into the original bit 0 carry. Rotate shifts all bits right when the carry is shifted into bit 7. The original bit 0 is into carry. Also, wait a minute. LSR. I was confused which one does what. Shifts all bits to the right position. 0 is shifted in bit 7, and the original bit 0 is shifted. No, that's okay. That's what I wanted it to do. So attribute buffer X. So X is 38. Where is our memory for attribute buffer? That is at 65. So 65. 65 plus 38, right? In hex. So 9D. 9D. Why? How did... Attribute buffer. Am I looking at the wrong memory address? Maybe I am. Oh, it's at 0? Okay, well, that doesn't help. So 38 is here, so it's 5A. So with every shift, it should get closer to being 0, 5, right? So 3, 4. So now it's 0, 5. And then we're going to OR that with A. So it becomes 5, 5. And then we're going to store that into that location. And then we're going to increment Y. And we're going to increment X. And we're going to do it again. So we're going to get 5A. And we're going to turn that into 5, 5 also. And then we're going to get AA and turn that into AA, which is fine. And then we're going to get FA and turn that into FF. That's going to say AA, and that's going to become FF. That's going to become FF, and that's going to stay AA. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that should be it. We should be done now. So now we're going to load the new row in. We only set bit 1 of metatile flag, I believe, if we are loading a whole new metatile row. Increment metatile row, load new row, metatile flag, or A2, or is that correct? Increment. Oh, okay, right. Yeah, so we do the increment there because if it's 0 when we start, it becomes 1, and then we OR the 2 onto it later. That's fine. Okay. Load Y 0, tile counter is 1. So we're just loading up our row now. That's all pretty normal. That looks fine. So we should increment now 4 pixels and then, oh, sorry, not 4 pixels, 2 rows and then go into our no split update again. So like the scroll, that is weird. We got 2 rows and then another 2 rows, it seemed like. Maybe that I'm not going to finish this in this stream after all. I was hoping, because it seemed like I had a handle on it, but clearly it is a little trickier than I initially anticipated. All right, so if we go back to this, go back for a second. What are you doing? Like, I don't know why the scroll register seemed to have gotten reset. Could just be another bug with the way that we're doing the increment here. So let's just slow this down. Okay, go back, go back. So I want to see what it's doing. So it updated the attributes and the rows. Seems like that was wrong, but it did do just that row, that half row of attributes there. Then it loaded that row. And then it did that row, and then that whole big chunk of attributes. That's strange. The one thing I am thinking is that I'm comparing this against 4. Well, I guess that's... Let me see. If we start at... I guess this should be 8 and not... Because we're technically... We were comparing against the... Because the row is loaded when we come in. I think we're not updating it the right time, given that we're sort of somewhat offset already when we come back in around here. So let's see if that at least fixes that a little bit. And then we'll wrap it for tonight, because I'm getting tired here. All right, so let's... There's the row. Well, there's the incorrect attribute update. There's another row. Another row. Another row. It's weird. It's... Yeah, something is still not right, and I'm... Do I have that breakpoint still set? No. So let's do this on a let's do this on a line by line basis. So we're at a point where it's going to load another row, and it should also be updating half the attribute. Is the scan line... That's so weird. The scroll jumps back like that. I don't know that I see that happening in the emulator. I'm wondering if that's just an artifact of the when emulation is running, show PPU data at scanline 0. I'm wondering if that's just an artifact of the position that I have it updating. No, it's still like jumping back, which is odd. I mean, we don't see that. Let me see. If we just let this run, I want to just see what this actually displays compared to the map. Except that I can't see anything right now because this is blocking my view. See if we can figure out exactly how broken this is. Well, you know, I guess it's not that broken. I mean, it's not right still, but the issue seems to be maybe less bad compared to what I thought. I mean, it's still not updating the attributes correctly. But I thought it was totally... Well, no, it looks like it is substantially wrong. All right, I take back what I said. It is pretty broken. I'm sure it's something just kind of stupid that I'm doing with the way I'm messing with the bits that I will I'll be able to resolve when I come back to look at it with a clearer sense of what I'm doing in the next stream. Interesting. Okay, well, we'll call it for tonight. I don't like leaving it broken like this. I was hoping to get at least the one split mode, or the non-split mode rather, working properly, but yeah, attributes are a pain. So we'll come back to this and figure out what I messed up in the next stream. Let's add a thing here for next time, so I don't forget. And we'll figure out what's going on. I suspect that it's just a couple of little things that I've messed up here with the, first of all, the check for when we should be updating the attributes, and then in the split mode versus non-split mode, I must be doing something wrong with the way that I'm updating my attribute buffer. And I can only imagine what that is. You can look back at how what this looks like, because essentially right now it's just a simple mapping of the tile, the meta tile value to the palette color that it uses, and so we populate this temp variable with 4 nibbles that equal that value, the palette value, and then we use that to update the attribute buffer at the attribute index, and then we move on to the next one. And I thought it would be as simple as just updating this attribute mode, which both, it simultaneously works as a mode of what kind of attribute updates we're doing, and also the bit mask that we need for when we're updating the attribute buffer. But it does not seem to be the case, and I'm just not seeing it right now. So for now, thank you for watching the stream. I will upload this to YouTube, as I always do. If you have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at Clairvis. I'm also in Nintendo Age. Feel free to comment on the video and ask questions. And have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday. Thanks for watching.